You are listening to the Savage FINcast, episode 111, 2021 questions, an Erik Larsen interview.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, the show that doesn't buy into conspiracy theories, but does find it odd that there's been no mention of birds in the historical record before the year 2002. My name is Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
I'm Raven Perez.
Welcome back to another episode of the Savage FINcast. We got a very special and packed episode for you. We got Erik Larsen on again. We're going to talk about Ant, which we should have done a while back, but we're getting into it now. We're sure to talk about many other things concerning Savage Dragon in the year that is now past. And then later after the interview, we're going to talk about our own thoughts about Savage Dragon in the year 2021. So let's get right into that interview, shall we?
Let's do it.
So we are joined by Erik Larsen. Once again, it's been a long time. Raven did the research. Apparently, we haven't had you on since like mid-2020. It's a real big oversight on our part. We definitely wanted to have you on earlier because we wanted to talk about Ant for a while.
Okay.
Now that 2 issues are out. Feels like we've dropped the ball on that one. Apologies. But it is great to have you on again, finally.
All right. Well, it's really great.
So,
go ahead, Greg.
Should we just jump right into some of our Ant questions and talk about Ant first of everything?
Yeah, man, let's have an ant attack.
You want to start off, Jim, or you want me to go ahead?
We have talked about, we know the impetus of the Ant project and all, but how do you feel it's been going? Starting the way you did with issue 12. Then going into the series itself with issue 1, has it kind of worked out the way you'd hoped?
Kind of. I don't actually like having there be. I mean, kind of what I was thinking was that this issue 12 would work as an issue 12 for both runs in the book.
Yeah, we saw that in the back matter when we talked about issue 12.
So I was sort of coming into this going, oh, that'll be cool. And at the same time, I'm kind of going, yeah, that would kind of suck. Because it really makes it so that you're constantly having to think, well, wait a minute, what was established by that point and what wasn't? And what did I say? And it's like, God damn it, why do I do this sort of thing to myself?
Didn't you say at some point you're going to make it almost like loop back? So like you're going to tie back into like issue 12 as the ongoing and then kind of...
Yeah, that was kind of the idea would be like, it'll sort of like when I tied Graphic Fantasy in with Savage Dragon, that I kind of had that as my mile marker. Like I'm eventually going to get to this place where I remember leaving it off as a kid, and then I can take it from there and go whatever direction I want to go. Which, at the time was like, oh, this would be super cool. And then all the time that I was doing the book, I was like, God, how am I going to make all this work? And how's this going to have everything in the right place that it needs to be in and stuff like that. And same thing with having the flash forward with Wildstar. It's like,
right.
Holy crap, man.
I was going to mention that as like something that you set up well in advance and that it took years and years.
It was like so far ahead. And then, Al Gordon's sitting there with Wildstar going, I never get to use the character, so I don't want him to be an old man. I mean, he'll never get to the point of being an old man. So I had to come up with some way that he would be turning into an old dude in order to make it even work. So it was like, all right, this thing's a mess.
We loved it. We loved it so much.
I'm glad it worked, but it was definitely one of those like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And also, by the time I got there, I kind of realized, yeah, Malcolm doesn't look enough like the Malcolm that I forwarded to. So in terms visually, it didn't quite work. And I'm thinking that that's going to be a problem with Ant going forward, because when you first start drawing a character, you don't really have it dialed in yet, and it takes a few months, a few issues before you're comfortable drawing that character, So I'm thinking, God, I might get there. I could really be drawing her very different. And
so just slotting in issue 12 would just be kind of like a tonal shift from what you did at identical issue 11.
Kind of weird. Like suddenly you're going, oh, now she's skinny again. She was getting pretty chunky there for a while. What the hell? Or something like that. Or I haven't quite figured out how I was going to draw her hair yet, and probably still will take a few issues before I get to the point where I'm super comfortable doing that. But
yeah, it's all things that we've seen with the original Dragon character starting off kind of skinnier and bulking up, or the fin.
Yeah, skinnier, and his fin was all over the place, and sometimes it's doing crazy stuff, and then as it progressed, like when I was doing the crossover with the Turtles, Michael Dooney was like, I thought I had it figured out when drawing that fin that you'd settled on 7 different sections. And I was like, I hadn't even thought that there would be a set number. I was kind of thinking of it like the Thing's rocks. Like you don't really, like nobody's sitting there going, wow, his shoulders has too many rocks in it this month.
Yeah.
But it's just, the closer we get to it, the more sections there are, and the farther we are, the fewer sections there are. But now I'm just like, just 5. Just keep it consistently 5, and it's fine. So, yeah, it hasn't been as smooth as I like. There's also stuff where I'm having to draw covers way ahead of time.
Right.
And that's always a weird thing, because you're sitting there going, well, what am I going to feel like drawing in a month or 2 or 3 or 4, as the case may be? And then you get there and it's like, oh crap, why did I do that? I really needed another issue to set all that stuff up. So whatever.
Now, is Jack Morelli gonna be lettering Ant going forward as well now?
Yeah. Yep.
Did that cause like any hiccup in schedule changing in that way? And I think you have a few issues, right, completed at this point, and they're just kind of ready to go, right?
I wish.
Oh, really?
No, never. It's pretty much what you see is what's done.
Yeah.
And almost at any time, I'm into issue 2, but I'm not done with issue 2 as we speak. And then I wish I was done with issue 2.
I never met a comic artist who actually maintained a buffer. You might have a buffer of like,
I had this glorious little window when I was working during the pandemic, when it first had started, where I was building time, and I was like, oh, I'm getting more and more ahead. This is awesome. Every issue's taking me about 3 weeks, and I'm going to get to that point where I've always wanted to be, where I'll draw an issue and then I'll draw the cover after I'm done drawing the issue, because that'll be awesome. Then I can just make it up as I go and then draw the cover like, oh yeah, this is what happened, so here's the best cover scene from the issue. And then I hit that comic strip issue and it all just fell apart. It's just a complete disaster, because that thing that took forever, and then I made a huge mistake of showing one of the strips to somebody who took real offense at it, and then I ended up having to jettison the strip that I had done and come up with a new one to take its place.
Oh, no kidding.
That was bad news, because I actually knew somebody worked on comic strips and be like, oh, this will be cool. And it's like, no, they were not receptive to that whatsoever. It's like, okay, let's not do that. So there's another strip that I drew out that, maybe once that person dies, I can be like, oh, I did this one.
Did you try passing the strips by all the living artists? Or
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Always ask for forgiveness.
Better. Yeah. So better to ask for forgiveness than for permission, because it's just a disaster.
Yeah.
And I don't really know that many of the people anyway, and trying to track them down would be kind of crazy.
Was the cartoonist offended by the joke, or just that you were using the style?
It was the joke. Yeah. It was the material. It was purely the material, and it was just, there's just no two ways around. So
my mind is going places, man.
Yeah, it's going places, and I kind of don't want to say, because it doesn't serve any purpose.
Right.
Quick, let me throw this in here real quick. You've mentioned before this issue of not enjoying having an albatross hanging over your head with the covers, that you have to draw in advance and then, work an issue around it. But Savage Dragon has had 2 variants for a good little clip now. Had you given any thought to potentially only soliciting one cover, and instead of just having the other variant be like retro trade, just draw that, have that cover be your after the issue is done cover, and that way you can solicit just the cover you do in advance and a to be announced cover, because I've seen that in previews where they're like, oh, variant to be announced, and it's like, that way people can just order not even knowing what the hell it is. That way you get to have your cake and sort of eat it too.
The problem with that is it would add another cover that I would have to draw.
Yeah, we're even to draw 2 covers.
And then it's like, that's just another page. That's another day that makes it so things are that much later and that much further behind.
Fair enough.
Just make every
I've done some covers, some swaps with people, and eventually we'll see some of those, because I did a cover for Geiger, and so Gary Frank and I are swapping covers, so there'll be a Gary Frank cover at some point.
Nice.
And I just did a couple other covers that I don't think have been announced yet, so I'll have a couple other artists do variants at some point, and they'll be like, oh, well, what do you know? Okay, cool. But again, since they haven't shown them, it's like, I guess I can't show them before they show them. So
that'll be fun to keep an eye out for.
So you tell me we're gonna get a Chris Samney Savage Dragon cover?
That one was a little. That would definitely be cool, but yeah, since that deal was kind of struck with Robert Kirkman. And I don't really want him to draw a cover. I mean, he can draw, but it's like, that's not fair, right?
Understood.
Yeah, there's that.
I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember you saying that Ant number 3 is going to basically be kind of like the Ant's point of view of Spawn 265. Is that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of pages that won't be in there because they just have they just have Spawn, and so it's like I'm going to be doing my version of him in his Al Simmons in his apartment or whatever. So we'll get the other side of how she got into the battle with King Spider and stuff like that, and then so that then I can drop in a few pages from Spawn. So that'll save me a little bit of time,
right?
But it's not like there's a huge chunk of that I could just use. So it's not as much as I would hope. And then when it comes to an issue with Malcolm in it, because the styles of those are so different, I would have to redraw some of that. So that didn't. So it's like, okay, I've got the layouts for a couple pages that I'll use there, but I'm not going to be able to just use that completely transferred over.
So, it's still cool though, I think, to kind of have like a Spawn guest spot, kind of draw maybe some readers of Spawn into the new Ant book too, and also check that out.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the hope and all that stuff of using guest stars at all. Like, hey, come right in.
Well, but it seemed like Ant's gone over pretty well. When issue 1 came out, I heard some decent buzz about it from the internet.
It's gone up relatively well. Yeah, I'm sad that it hit kind of right at the point where I just hit a creative wall on. My comics have not been coming out very frequently of late, and it's just I just got to a point where I had just terrible writer's block, and it was just like, well, this is coming at a very opportune time. And it's like, how does one get through this? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't have a good answer to how one does that, but staring at a blank sheet of paper doesn't seem to be the way.
That is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. It's like there's always other crap I can do. It's like, oh, I've got letters pages that need to get done. So I'll work on that, and I'll sketch in my sketchbook, and let's go for a walk and stuff like that. And it's like, well, none of that's getting the book done.
Right. Is this kind of, I don't recall you ever having kind of a writer's block like you mentioned before, and maybe you just have not said it publicly or anything like that. Is this something new
this is
for you?
Kind of this is a new one for me. I've had periods where, when I was the publisher at Image, where I had so much other crap that needed to get done,
right?
I couldn't devote as much time to doing the book. So there were a couple of pretty bleak years there. But this is the first where I'm sitting here going, what the hell am I doing here? And sometimes, too, there's stuff gets done that you just don't see. Or it's like, there's 2 Ant covers that I've drawn, and one that I even colored, that those aren't going to see print. They may see print as, look at this fucked up thing, but they don't see print as actual covers on the book. But it's like, I did one with Ant and Daredevil that it just didn't work. It just wasn't very good. So, and then I didn't want to have the Spawn in the book, like with issue 3. That seemed like that was a little too early. Mm-hmm. But I did some other cover for 3, and it was not good. It was just some hair fighting some made up character, and it's just like, this character doesn't look cool, and it's not a cool cover, and the deadline is looming if I'm going to solicit this thing right now. So I guess I'll just kind of do a different version of this Spawn cover, and that's at least something I can do. So yeah, it's not all fun and games, kids.
Would you say that the block has been coming, primarily from Ant or Dragon or both?
It's been both. It wasn't really like I can do this and not do that. It really was a thing of I don't know what the hell I can do on either of these things. And I'm just trying to slug my way through it. I was trying to work on Dragon and Ant simultaneously. It would be like, oh, I'll do a page of this, and then I'll do a jump back over here. And it's like, well, this is just extending both of these like a crazy amount. Yeah, and it's like I don't even know that talking through anything helps in any way. But it's like, trying to get through it.
I gotta say, we were pretty surprised when we learned that you had writer's block after reading 260. I think I hope I'm not putting words in the other guy's mouth, but I remember being like, really? He had I was expecting this 260 to be kind of a drag and maybe it was not very good, and we enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, there was just so much that was going on, and I think that Savage Dragon at this point with where the characters are and the supporting cast is that there's just it's kind of at a similar period where I enjoyed the original Dragon when there were just almost too many characters, but it was like a soap opera where it's flashing everywhere of who's doing what.
Here, we're over there, it's all over the place. It's just, well, what's Freak Force up to? Let's check out over here. It's like, oh yeah, it's chaotic and it's fun and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm sitting there going, how am I going to make this fit? It's got to fit in 20 pages. I can't do.
That's difficult, yeah.
Can't do this. I can't do that. I'll pencil a scene out and it's like, oh, I can't spend 2 pages doing this. I got to consolidate this down to 1 somehow. So there ends up being tons and tons and tons of stuff that I've done that, I can't use. It's like there was this page in 261 that was initially 2 pages. And it just was like, I don't have the room to make this 2 pages. I've got to make this 1 somehow. And then, sometimes it really affects the page turn by taking something that was going to be 2 and suddenly it's going to be 1. And I'm, very conscientious about what's on the left-hand side and what's on the right-hand side when I'm doing all this stuff. So, it's like this has to be a right-hand side because it's to be continued. And this has to be a left-hand side because it's picking up from something, So, Jesus Christ, I'm killing myself.
Are you going to make
I would have thought this was all supposed to get easier as I get older, and what ends up happening is you don't want to do the same thing that you've done before. Right. And so eventually you run out of stuff that you haven't done before. And that becomes its own set of problems. Like, oh, I've done this kind of a punch shot 1,000,000 times. Well, it's a different way of approaching this. Like, hell if I know. How do I do that?
It probably gets easier for most cartoonists, but since you've drawn 260 pages of the same, title, it's super difficult for you.
Well, it's that, and it's so it all just accumulates too, where you're going, I don't know what characters are still alive anymore, and it's like I got this vicious circle jerk coming up, and I'm sitting there going, okay, let's get all the vicious circle guys together. Let's have it be a big hootenanny with all these dudes. It's like, well, who's alive? Who's not alive? What do their goddamn costumes look like? and using the wiki some, and then going back and forth, and it's like, I've never established this guy's legs. We've only shown him from this angle, and we've never seen this guy's back. We don't know what this guy looks like, and then we got to give color notes for Nico's on absolutely everything. Sending him files and stuff, and then realizing how many of my characters are visually redundant of each other. And just going, am I really going to have 6 different guys with different color skins who've all got horns on their heads all hanging out together? I just did this issue that had Torment in it. Am I going to have there be 2 other guys who've got little heads growing out of their head in the very next issue? That's no good. So, all right, let's avoid a couple of those guys and not have them show up as part of this gang. On the other hand, it'd be nice to go, let's kill these son of a bitches off so I don't have this redundancy. But whatever, I painted myself into this corner. Complain about it. And then some of it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this. What the hell? This is you're going down this slide and you're going somewhere. I'm just like, where the hell am I going with this? It's just supposed to build up to something and pay off in some way. I don't know.
It's wild. It's wild because, we do these shows. This is kind of going to be a little bit of a year in review as well. And I went back, I read everything today that came out this year. And the funny thing about it, Eric, is that even as we read them and do the FINcast, sometimes you can, as a reader, feel like a sort of a disparate, disconnect. But then man, when you read it all at once, it feels like seamless. I mean, it's perfect it's crazy how perfect it connects. And I was just like, God damn, Savage Dragon, I know you say you're flying by the seat of your pants every issue, but I mean, hell if I could tell.
Yeah.
I definitely, well, that you're going down that track though, because you've set all this stuff up. So it's like, I know this needs to pay off in something, but there's certain things too that I'm like, okay, well, I don't know where this particular thing is going. And then there's other stuff that it's like, I know, and there's some big macro stuff that, going down the series. Like, well, I know I eventually want Amy to be doing this, and I want Tyrone to be doing this. I want Jack to be doing this, and Maddie's got to look like this. And, and you've got those sort of big picture plans.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and a lot of the minutia becomes the stumbling block where you're going, okay, well, I know I want to get there, but I got to do what's for lunch today,
Sure.
And that can become another thing. You're like, I don't know, what are we doing here? What's going on?
I really think though, since 250, you've been doing such a great balancing act between bringing in old fan favorites, whether it's, the Vicious Circle and Mako and Thor, then sprinkling in brand new characters like Walter or North Force, and even bringing back Malcolm kind of reoccurring characters like Torment and stuff like that. And it's been so fun. I was, again, shocked that you had writer's block, because it seemed like since 250 that you've been having so much fun with this comic, with Paul coming back. Paul's been such a great addition to the book. And the dynamic there.
I love how much Malcolm hates him.
He's just so annoyed with him.
Just resents that he exists. It's like, God damn it. We had a funeral for you and everything. It's like, ah.
But it's so great. I mean, that's such a great dynamic that, he's not just accepting him. It makes it super interesting.
Well, cool. I'm glad that part's working at least.
Malcolm, like me, is waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there.
I think Paul is great as an addition to the cast, though, because he's, for I think a lot of those old Savage Dragon guys who can't move past, Dragon was a cop. Dragon's the star of this book. You get to sort of have that Dragon feeling, but also Paul brings so much new to the book. Yeah, it's kind of like masterstroke, man, bringing it in.
Well, because he's got his own supporting cast that we'd never met before.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, I gotta go talk to my buddy Joseph Strange and see what he's up to. Like, what? Who is this guy? And then a bunch of his guys weren't even around. And then Dart in his reality was called Poison Dart. So when he refers to Dart, so occasionally he'll call her Poison Dart.
That's stuff we love. We love that stuff.
Well, it's huge for like super Savage Dragon nerds that have been around and just eat up this kind of backstory stuff. It's also, I think, fun for the newer cast, the newer readers that want to see Dragon.
It's also nice that I published those 2 graphic fantasies, so those are out there for people who really just want to read that stuff. It's like, oh no, that actually exists now as a thing that you can read.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, even down to like the same paper stock. So it's for those of us now can't afford a copy of that. To still have that in our collection.
Nobody who can afford that stuff.
Well, it's funny because back issues of Savage Dragon in general are just becoming like that. I feel like for newer readers, like anything after 200 now is like $10 to $20 a pop for a back issue.
I can't find stuff like after 60 sometimes. Cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's pretty wild though how much the market has picked up on that, and hopefully that's translating to sales of current issues of people getting interested in the current comic. But it is nice. I mean, as much as I hate to see those prices go up, in a way it's nice because it translates to people purchasing the comic.
Yeah, and unfortunately I'm kind of blowing it by not having my book out every month. Because that's the one thing that hurts sales more than anything is when your book is running late.
Yeah.
It's because stores will be like, oh, I haven't had one of these in a while. Let's cut back on this. And it's like, oh, it's not good for me in the long term.
Yeah, it's probably always harder to get it back once it's gone.
Then it's always like the pressure, gotta get it out, go. And it's like, God damn it.
Are we expecting a 261 by the end of this year?
I think just because of the way printing is and the holiday season, I think it becomes January, even though I've turned it in.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. There's still a paper shortage on right now, right? That's still like
there's a paper shortage, and Christmas is always screwed up because the printers will end up taking a couple weeks off right around Christmas, and so that messes everything up. And this stuff doesn't get fed through as quickly as you can. Every year, Christmas is just a pain in the ass. Honestly.
Yeah. Have you noticed problems too with like the distributors and stuff with all that shake up?
I haven't seen it on my end so much, but when I talk to retailers, like, yeah, we're getting books from Marvel and they're all damaged because those guys don't know what the hell they're doing, and all these DC books are problems. But Diamond kind of had that part dialed in, so books arrive from Diamond in good shape.
Right.
Thankfully.
One of the questions I have for you is, I know like in the past few years, a bunch of your comics have gone back for second prints. I think most recently Ant 12 had a second print. And then I'm reading that Image has got a new policy that they're not doing second prints anymore. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it seems like...
No, I'm not happy about that, and I kind of found out about it after the fact. Like, oh, we're not doing this anymore. It's like, okay, well, are we going to print the shit out of every issue we put out now? Because are we going to just overprint by 1,000 copies? Because
it just
that's
seems
what we
like, yeah.
probably should do.
Is the logic that by assuming that reprints are coming down the line, it lets comic shops under order, and so this is supposed to incentivize orders?
Yeah, I guess it's part of it. It's like, come on, you guys.
So maybe they should make that policy for like issue ones, but sometimes I just feel like there's surprise issues out there that they just don't catch on until, the first round of people read it. And then, so it stinks if you're a creator and you can't capitalize on.
Yeah, I guess there's generally trades of a lot of this stuff. So
yeah,
even if you can't read the monthly issue, you could conceivably buy the trade. Yeah, but yeah, it'd be nice to be able to have. I don't even like trades, to be honest.
No.
Same.
I'm not a fan. I like to have letters pages. I like to have extra stuff in the back when I can arrange that sort of thing, and whatever.
And not always, but a lot of the time, I don't know. I say not always, but man, it feels like a problem I run into more than I should. When things are bound in the trade, like they don't leave sufficient room in the gutters for the center. So you'll have shit run real close to the center of the book, and it's kind of like way more tight than it should be. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Never a problem on a single.
Yeah, it's true. Oh well. What can we do?
We can ask about back matter in Ant. I like the sketch galleries that Ant 12 and Ant 1 had. How much longer, how much more gas you got to keep that going, or when do you think that's going away?
I'll probably do that for a few, just because it exists.
Nice.
I mean, I know people have offered to do stuff back there. I don't know. It's a weird thing because there's a certain amount of people who seem to just resent that there is something else in the back of the book. Like,
are you kidding me?
Well, when there's stories back there are people who are like, especially back in the day when I was running, there was a couple backup stories that I did that were not as well received as others, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And so
we know the ones.
You had people who were just like, just felt like, oh, I gotta read it because it's here, but I just don't like that it's here. I feel like I have to read it, and it feels like a chore to read.
Jesus,
people have...
And I actually kind of felt that way myself reading. There was another book that we had published that had backup stories in it, and it's like I read the lead story fine, and then there's all this stuff in the back, and I was like,
was it Invincible? Because Invincible had some weird backups for the first few years, as I recall.
I was actually thinking of G-Man, because G-Man, okay. I mean, it wasn't like the book was around for a long time, but it had backups in it, and it's like, I like the G-Man stuff fine, but I'm just not that into the other stuff so much.
Well, I think it's it's bonus content. I think is and people say it's part of the value.
Yeah, it should be like if you want to read this, you can. And it's like I grew up reading my dad's comics, so those always just kind of assumed. You're a reader. You're reading comics. You must love all comics.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put random shit in the back of this, and we hope you like it. Silver Age DC Comics would always have, like, Gary the Turtle, and all that stuff.
Everything was practically like a anthology back in those days. Yeah, so everything was like expected to have like
the Golden Age especially it was really like that, and a lot of them had regular, ongoing, funny strips. Because my dad had this huge, long collection of Captain Marvel adventures, and in the back of that, you could count on there's going to be Captain Kidd, which fucking sucked always. It was just like, why does this exist? It's not funny. It's not entertaining in any level. But I would feel like, oh, I got to read this thing. And then there was 1-page funny strips that were in there, Tightwad Tad or whatever. And those were fine. They're always just the corniest jokes imaginable, but they were fine. And then, modern comics just don't have that stuff at all. Yeah. It's like you get the lead story, and that's all there is. It's just a lead story, and there's no. Most comics these days don't have letters pages even, and so if it's like there's no letters page and there's no back matter of any sort, what the hell? Is it just going to be ads? That's cool.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, reading a comic, especially when it had like, back matter or the soapbox. I mean, you just felt like more of a community. Letters pages, a soapbox. You felt, I don't know. Maybe it's just people aren't young anymore and that are reading comics and just don't care and go online. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's super easy to do that and go online. It's like, oh, it's right there. Let's just do that. And you can all talk through, oh, did you get the new issue? Let's all talk about that right now. And then the problem gets to be for me that people will talk it through online and then they don't send in letters. And then I'm sitting there going, well, what do I do? Because I like to have there be letters pages, and I'd like really for there to be long letters pages if I can, because I like that.
Right.
And so if people are writing in, it's like, oh crap, what am I going to do here? For Ant on the 3rd issue letters page, because I was running so late that I was like, I've got all these letters for issue 1. Why don't I run those in issue 2? Because I've got them. They're right here. So let's just run those, rather than have to come up with a text page for a 2nd issue, which is always kind of a drag because you've already said everything you wanted to say, really, to set up the series.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it was like, well, I've got the letters. I might as well run them in issue 2. And so with issue 3, I was like, well, there's been all these reviews for issue 1. Why don't I run those kind of as though they were letters and just have those be in the 3rd issue? So that's what I'm doing on that. So that's something. I suppose I could do that with Savage Dragon too, if it came to it, and just start finding people who are writing reviews.
I feel like the letters are flowing in Savage Dragon as of a while now. I mean, I feel like it was maybe like 10 years ago. There was, I forget what issue it was, where it was like that blank letters page. Yeah. And it was like, well, here we are.
Which I actually got one letter to, but it was just like, oh, this is an unprintable letter. It's like, I don't want to run this. It would just be one shitty letter and then respond to it with super long response.
Just giant font.
Yeah, huge.
But no, I mean, am I wrong? It does seem like the letters are kind of coming in now.
I print pretty much every letter I get.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, that same guy who wrote for that unpublished letter, occasionally he'll write in again, and I'll be like, all right, I'm not running this either. Because he writes shitty letters. And he always does. They're kind of, I don't know. There does seem to be a pattern of the kinds of letters that people write in. One of the big ones is, well, this is how I started reading the book. I know this is of utmost importance to you. You want to know my history of reading your book and how I discovered it. Well, sit back in a comfy chair and pour yourself a drink, because if I got a tale to tell.
I'm pretty sure my first letter to Savage Dragon was
It's
just
always
like that.
It's always like, oh, man, I've never read your book before, but, I was in my dentist's office, and that guy is something of a renegade, and he had a copy.
We've been doing those. We've been doing those retros, and I really relish reading those letters from back then because, goddamn, it felt like you guys would print anything. Some of those letter writers back in the '90s were whacked out, man.
Well, and there's so many more, 12 and 13-year-olds writing in.
Oh, yeah. That was the cool thing about doing comics at that point, is that for that brief window where comics were really respectable, and that every kid thought he was going to become a millionaire, they would just be like, we're buying comics and we're reading comics, and it was all like 10 and 12-year-olds, and you would go to the conventions. And it'd be like, what the hell? There's all these normal people walking around. What the hell? What's going on here?
Their parents.
And it was just like regular human beings that were coming to conventions for a while. And then as it's gone on, more the hunks of tape in the middle of people's glasses have returned. And it's like, all right, my people.
The basement BO.
Taking it back.
Yeah, that I've never seen sunlight before. Tan.
The guys that get super nervous.
Yeah, that. I was like, oh God, I can't believe. All right, well, that's cool.
That's hilarious. Hey, I wanted to pick your brain on Savage Dragon 258. I'm kind of bouncing around, but this issue really intrigued me.
Right.
I know you're a big fan of a certain podcast, and this issue is just kind of feels like it's I did a little research, and it's filled with Easter eggs for this. Is it the Unmade podcast, or?
There was two. There was two. I first got turned on to a podcast. My son turned me on to a podcast called Hello Internet, which when you look on the cover, there's a nail and gear, and that was a Hello Internet thing, and then a lot of the other stuff was just from the Unmade podcast, which is just like, all right. I try not to make it too intrusive, that it's just, no more so than when you're reading any issue and I've got a Toronto restaurant that you might not be familiar with.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't impact the story, but once I started digging into it and looking at it, I was like, oh, there's like just dozens and dozens of Easter eggs about this one podcast. So I was like, what is the podcast about, and what is it that that you like it so much? I didn't listen to an episode, but I looked at their merch and stuff, and it's like, oh, all this stuff shows up everywhere in this book.
Yeah, it is everywhere. Kind of what I like about it is it's just like two guys that are super old friends just can kind of rib each other a little bit about this and that, and it's just something to listen to while you're sitting there staring at a blank page or not. Yeah. And so initially I just was like, oh, there was a store that was in where they lived, which was Adelaide, Australia. So these guys grew up as friends in Australia, like, a million years ago when they were kids. And so as growing up in any local areas, you've got those commercials that come on TV that you listen to again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And one of them was a commercial for a place called The Sofa Shop. And And so they would always hear that same jingle over and over and over again. And at one point, one of the early episodes, they got talking about it, and he played the jingle from the Sofa Shop. And then they both had it so stuck in their head that they just kind of obsessed on it. And eventually they were getting in, different people would do covers of the Sofa Shop to send it into their podcast. And so they play this, here's this reggae style Sofa Shop cover. Here's this bagpipe Sofa Shop cover. And here's one played on French horns or whatever. And eventually they even, when one of them was visiting the other in Adelaide, they actually tracked down the guy who wrote the tune and the guy who sang the tune and talked about it and did an updated re-recording of the same song. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of this crazy thing. The premise of the podcast is two guys coming up with ideas for a podcast because they couldn't decide what the podcast should be about initially. So it was like one of them would toss out, and initially each one would toss out two different ideas, and then they'd talk through whatever that idea was.
That's awesome.
It just, a lot of conversations spring from that of wouldn't this be a funny idea to do this and like that, and they're good humored, and it was just an enjoyable thing to listen to.
That sounds great. I just know, like, I was looking on like their merch, and like everything in their merch thing is like, wait a minute, because I saw it all in the book first, so I had no idea. And I remember when we were reviewing the issue, we're looking at Walter's swim trunks, and we're like, what the fuck is that say? Like, we couldn't make out what the words were. And it was like, does that say Fanta? Like, what is that? Like, why? It was so random. And then I saw it on the merch page. So they must have some kind of, that must be another inside joke on the podcast. But we were so perplexed.
Yeah, they did an episode called My Favorite Piece of Clothing. And then they started talking about, this one guy had these Fanta shorts that he had as a kid, and basically he had these shorts, and they kind of became him. Like, he would wear them all the time, so people would kind of recognize him from his shorts. And then at some point he grew out of them and retired them. And then on his birthday, the other guy had them framed and presented them as these framed things that he could put on his wall. And so it's like, that was kind of so it all became like, how many of these little in-jokes, once I started getting into it, how many of these references can I stuff in here before it gets annoying,
Well, like I said, if you didn't listen to it, like, it seems some of the things just seem like strange choices, but
Hind Dog. Just the name Hind Dog. Everybody was like, what?
And those are the two hosts, right? That are the guys at the house.
Yeah, that was one was Tim Hine and Brady Heron were the two hosts.
They have a pretty sweet house. Cool.
Yeah, that's totally made up. But they don't live anywhere near each other. One lives in the UK, and the other lives in Australia.
That issue was a great issue, though. It seemed like it must have been a lot of fun to write. I mean, you kind of start off with the action with Thor and get that in, but the adventure with Walter.
I tried to stick the Thor thing. I wanted to end that in the previous issue, and I just couldn't for the life of me end it. And because I always would draw the book where my letter at that point was super slow. And so he needed me to feed him like basically a page at a time almost, because I knew that if I dropped the whole issue in his lap at the end, that it was like, okay, well, this is going to take him a week to letter it. So I can't have it that suddenly there's a whole other week on top of this. So what I would do is just kind of feed him as I went, so that when I did get to the end, I could be like, and here's the script for the last 2 pages. Get those done so that this can be all out on time. And so now it's a little bit different. I still write a chunk of it, or script a chunk of it, but the new guy is like, just, if you could give me the first half of the book and then give me the second half of the book, then we're good to go. And it's like, all right, okay,
nice.
That's a little more sane than trying to write it a page at a time. And so when I would be drawing it a page at a time and then writing it a page at a time, I would get down to the end of the book and going, oh crap, I've got 3 pages. How can I wrap this up in 3 pages? And with the Thor thing, it was like, there's just no way to do it. It's got to be bigger than that. So it ended spilling out into the next issue. And then the next issue became, okay, well, now you've blown 6 pages of this story on, this other stuff, or 5 pages, whatever it was. So now you can't get into the stuff going on with
Walter.
The tiger.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can't get Walter in here immediately. He can't be on the splash page immediately. So initially I had intended them to have more of a real adventure, but because I was running up against the clock again, like, I don't want this adventure to spill over into the next issue yet again, because that just could be this cascade of problems where each story just is spilling into the next one and the next one. So they ended up kind of having a non-adventure where they just kind of go out into the snow and get lost and then break into somebody's place to get something to eat, and then that's the end of that.
It worked good, though, with them both being like, of a child's mind. Like, that's a kind of an adventure it felt like you could actually have as a kid. You run away from home, steal some chick, and end up getting picked up.
Yeah, most of the time it's like, nothing much really happens when you go out with your friends. So that's all right. I haven't seen Walter since. I need to bring him back.
Hell yeah.
Well, you know who I'm missing? I don't think we've seen Greta Gearbox in a minute.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Let me tell you about that.
Lay it on.
I had a backup story that was going to be in issue 250 that was being drawn that had a Greta Gearbox story in it. And I'd been waiting for the guy to... And it's just been like this thing of these characters are now getting older and older and older, and this story is set back when Maddie is a tiny little kid, and it's just, as time goes on, it's like, is this ever going to get finished? For crying out loud, this is unbelievable how long this is taking.
Is it something that impacts the character, so you can't move on with the character?
She gets pretty fucked up in this story.
Oh.
And so it was kind of, the idea would be like, I kind of felt like she was making, their world is fantastic enough that having there be this extra person that's, and we've got a robot, and we've got a friend who's a talking tiger, and eventually it just got to be, there's too much fantastic in their life, and they kind of feel like they need a little more ordinary in their life. Like, can they have friends that are just regular people friends,
right?
And not have everybody around them be, hey, it's another guy with superpowers. You know,
I mean,
that can be a problem when you've got a book like, the Fantastic Four, which is like, well, we've got 4 characters who all have superpowers. If there's how many supporting characters can this book actually have before you're looking at the book going, this is a mess. There's just too many goddamn characters in this. So when you have a book like the FF, you suddenly go, so really Johnny Storm doesn't have any supporting characters of his own at all. Reed Richards really doesn't have any friends at all. Sue doesn't have any friends at all, because really the only supporting character they had was, for the longest time, was Alicia.
They need to ground it with Willie Lumpkin.
Willie Lumpkin.
Yeah, Willie Lumpkin showed up every once in a blue moon, and then like Wyatt Wingfoot was around a little bit.
Yeah.
Johnny would have occasional girlfriends that would be in and out of the book, but sometimes then it would be, well, he's going to have a superpowered girlfriend, so that character would be in there, and that book never felt right when it wasn't the original 4 anyway.
Right.
So then it really becomes like, okay, all these characters are getting older now, and blah, blah. Anyway, my concern with Savage Dragon is, he's a guy and he's got superpowers. He's now got 4 kids. They've all got superpowers. And then they're going to have a robot maid, and she's essentially got superpowers. Now Amy's got a buddy who's a tiger. Well, that's not usual either. And then we've got a brother-in-law who's got invisible skin and skull head, and and then his half sister is part of Freak Force, which ties all those guys in there. And then the only real regular friend they've got is Angel Murphy, and she's got superpowers.
Yeah.
So, I've eventually taken all together, it just becomes, do they know any normal human beings who aren't like tied in with something crazy?
I mean, Dragon only ever really had Alex and Frank and the occasional girlfriend.
Yep, that's true. But
you had all the police officers too, and for a while.
Yeah, you had that, because that way it was like, oh, he can be part of the team at the same time that he's a solo character. So I was able to kind of go both ways there, and just be able to go, when I need a team, I've got unlimited number of chuckleheads that I can haul in here.
Right. They really made Dragon feel extraordinary, because he was just this hulking guy standing around a bunch of just guys that could get killed any second by any of those vicious circles.
Yeah, and did.
Right.
So I am missing that element, which was something that the book used to have, and Malcolm's been a police officer, but not enough to really get that going. But it kind of felt like when I was doing Malcolm as a cop, like, oh, geez, man. Kind of felt like I'd played this out so much that it just didn't feel like, oh, this is something new. It just felt like this is something I've done already before a million times. I don't know.
Malcolm,
you always want to be finding something new. Is the thing, and kids are growing up, and kids are going to school, and things are changing. This fucking pandemic won't go away. that's another thing. It's like, do I really have to draw people with masks forever? That's no fun. And I'm kind of not having them running around with masks on when in a lot of situations they would be, just because it's like, well, that's no fun.
That's fair. I mean, ultimately, I mean, it'll date the book if you use it.
Well, that's
just a little bit enough.
Kind of the point of Savage Dragon is to date the book, though.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Ant, I don't want to date the book. So Ant, I'm not going to address the pandemic at all.
Interesting.
That's just not going to be a thing. It just doesn't exist in Ant, because unlike Savage Dragon, I don't want Ant set in real time. I don't want Ant aging, because eventually she wouldn't be able to be what she is anymore.
Right.
So there ends up being certain characters that I kind of have to go that route with, you know? It's like if I have the Deadly Duo in their 50s, it's like, it's not the same dynamic.
Right. How difficult has it been with Savage Dragon in real time when you're kind of your schedule's getting pushed back? I mean, with Dragon or Malcolm, it doesn't seem as big a deal, but when you're talking about, young kids that grow fast, it seems like that would kind of put a strain on how you can deal with that.
It is. And also, how much do you acknowledge these dates of, holidays and birthdays? It's like, so every September we're going to show the kids having a birthday, and I don't remember what month Maddie's birthday's in, but we're going to do that every year, and then we're going to mention Malcolm's birthday every year, and it's like they start stacking up, and it's like, are we going to have Christmas every year? Because that's like,
it was
one
so
out
much
of
easier when Dragon didn't have a birthday.
Christmas thing, so I've ended up skipping a lot of birthdays unless there's significant birthdays, just because it just seems like it would be nothing but birthdays and holidays all the time if I start acknowledging all of them.
Maybe do that for a year, see how that goes.
Yeah. I feel like you give Christmas its due plenty. We actually read a FINcast or a old Savage Dragon issue where you promised the letter writer that you would do a Halloween issue one time. Give Halloween a chance. 1 year.
You had it on the day by day issue.
I did do.
I had
one
or whatever.
Where Angel and Mr. Glum went.
Yeah.
They went trading as Calvin and Hobbes. So I did do that, and that wasn't that the month of the election or something? How'd that work out? Anyway, there was some craziness going on there.
I want to, if you guys don't mind, I want to talk about 260 and the experiment you did there with the two letterers, because I don't think it's anything I'd ever seen before. And I thought it was cool. I feel the printer kind of flubbed it when they printed it and messed it up. But when you actually can compare the two side by sides, the corrected issue, and look at Russ Wooten versus Jack Morelli's letters, it's pretty interesting to see two different letterers take on the same comic. And I know we had a blast kind of going page by page and choosing who we thought was better on each page. And then, we voted at the end of who we liked. I just was wondering what your thoughts were on it and how you thought it came out, and it was a headache or...
It was definitely a headache, especially with them misprinting the thing. Basically, it was like the Farron Delgado thing fell apart. He was really understandably tired of me at the end going, go, go, go. And he's just was having a tough time with that, and always felt like, I'm being pressured to do this super quick. You never give me any lead time. And it's like, all right, granted I'm a pain in the ass. And then, so he at the end was like, all right, if we're going to continue together, here's what I need. And so he asked for a huge increase in pay, plus money for extra, like double rates for splash pages, triple rates for cover, and then the capper of all this was, well, and understand, I've got other books to do, so I can't make yours priority. And it's like, fuck. I can't both be paying you nearly double what I've been paying you and have you make me a priority. Because it's like, if I was paying you almost twice your rate and I could count on you, that would be like, all right, shit, I guess I got to find a way to make this happen. But I can't have both. So I needed to find somebody. And then it was like, well, crap, who am I going to find? Because I love his lettering, and it's like,
yeah, it is awesome.
I absolutely love what he has been doing with the book for this period. He's been doing the book. And it's like, and so I was at wit's end after that whole thing fell apart. And so I was like, well, I know Russ has done the book before, and he comes highly recommended from many people, and he does a lot of stuff, and he's quick and he's good. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll have him do it. And then what happened is I went to this comic store and got Rob Liefeld had done this issue of The Shield for Archie.
Right.
And Jack Morelli lettered it. And he was kind of doing old school lettering. And so I was like, shit. I should have had this guy doing it. I should have had Jack doing it. He can kind of do that. He can kind of do what I was looking for. But I had already had Russ doing it. So I was like, well, can he do exactly, the kind of thing I want? Or can he? Let me try this guy out. So, I already had one guy going. I got the other guy going. And then it was like, well, we always do different covers every issue, where there's the pseudo Marvel dress, and then there's the standard Image dress. Let's just do an alternate inside, dude, and have there be these two different books. And paging through it, it's like, all right, I like this sound effect better over here. I like this stuff over here. I thought, I kind of thought that I kind of like Russ's torment dialogue more.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seemed more crusty and cooler to me. But then I liked Jack's title more. I liked sort of the naturalness that he's got for the word balloons in terms of just the other people talking. Some of Russ's stuff seemed a little too stiff and formal. Like the knock on the door where it's all squared off, and it's like, I'm not as into that. So, but if Russ had followed Chris Iliopoulos, I never would. It just would have been seamless. It would have been like, okay, this is the style of the book. This looks fine. Off we go.
Yeah, I know for us it wasn't clear cut. I mean, we were going back and forth. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a clear like this guy all the way. It was like, well, I like you said, I like this how he did. This guy did this one this way, and this guy did this sound effect this way, and in the end, I think we all said Jack. I don't remember. I know I did. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how it shook out. Jack won, but I mean, it was squeak by. It was like a one-page victory.
But
yeah, there's definitely like places along the way where I'm like, I really like this lettering bit here, and this over here, and it's really like if I could just marry the two of them, and pick and choose different places, but
yeah, it had to be a hard decision.
When I do the trade will have Jack's version, not Russ's version.
It's funny because it's so interesting, like how much lettering, affects the look of the overall comic. I mean, yes, the art is the biggest part in the draw, but lettering really, like, I just don't think a lot of people realize how much lettering contributes to the feel of a page.
I would think if somebody else had done this experiment instead of me, that you'd see an even bigger difference, because I do balloon placement. Mm-hmm. So all balloons are generally in the same place as the other guy's balloons. But if these guys were both left to their own devices and having to place balloons, they may be all over the place in terms of, how they think this would work and how that would work, stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe they're all fairly obvious choices on my end, but yeah, it's interesting.
Not related to the lettering battle, but I just have to say, having Torment strangle Malcolm with his own intestines, badass.
I always love a good squit sound effect.
Good squit. Yeah, I don't know how many people caught that. Those last few pages, I was homaging myself from a million years ago.
The miniseries, right?
Yeah, the miniseries where Dragon was fighting Super Patriot.
Yeah, definitely caught that right away.
Oh yeah,
super fun. I love when you do those flashbacks with Malcolm and Dragon because they're related. So in my mind, it's in his genetics to kind of act very similar to his father.
Yeah.
Have those similar kind of, reactions. So it's always cool. I know you've done it a few times. A few of those callbacks.
It's fun.
This one also had a tribute cover. Not like tribute so much as kind of like you were doing your spin on who's the artist? Help me out, Craig. Say
Gil Kane.
Gil Kane.
Yeah.
Any reason behind that in particular, or just something you felt like doing?
I just always love this cover.
Yeah,
there are a bunch of covers that Gil has done over the years. There's a couple artists whose covers I just am like, this guy got it going on. But Gil, there's been a bunch, and Herb Trimpe, there's been a few. Mm-hmm. And Jack Kirby's, there's been a few, but I haven't done one yet. And
I find that weird that you haven't done one.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that I haven't done. I mean, I guess like the 200, one of those covers was Jack, so that one kind of counts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any homage cover I did that was Jack straight up.
You have the Sienkiewicz homage with Sienkiewicz, whatever. Sorry, I don't recall you ever doing an homage of another artist interiors besides like Kirby or am I off there?
I'm just really clever. No, I am not above swiping.
I mean, that one though is not you trying to hide anything. That's pretty obvious.
Really super blatant, and you were supposed to catch it, but
right.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else in here I could point to and say, yeah, rip this off. But, I mean, it's not like I do it every single issue all the time, but occasionally there will be definitely some where I'm like, this needs a little something from somebody. Yeah, I guess I was too busy swiping myself in this issue to steal anybody else.
Where did the idea for making 259 a North Force Zero variant come from? It's something that was kind of new that you've never done, I think.
Yeah, that one was I think it was just because I wanted to do the pages in the back.
The profiles.
Yeah, I wanted to do all the profiles, and I had already had other stuff that was going to be in there. So it's like I knew I was going to be having their secret identities and detailing some of that stuff. So then it became, all right, well, I want to do a bit of this stuff and shove it in the back. And how can I do that? And yeah, I mean, there's not much difference in terms of story content. There's a voiceover in the North Force, and then there's not in the regular issue. And I think and then the title's different, but I think other than that, there's not much that's different.
What do you think, like, the reaction? Are there people out there expecting a North Force, like, continuing series, or is there confusion on that end of, like, the zero and the nothing?
Well, yeah, no, there hasn't been that much. I know that there's been people who have been interested in seeing it. I've had a couple people who said, if you want to do one, I'd be willing to draw it. But
cool.
The problem is I don't really have like a million North Force stories necessarily. So it's like I could do a mini series, and I was thinking of I could do a mini series where they're on their way to wherever the hell they're on their way to at the end of this issue, and just keep doing flashbacks and this is how we met, and this is how this character first ran into this character, and stuff like that, and then get to, okay, now we're having the right now this is happening adventure, and then take it from there. But I don't know. It sort of seems like some of it's a far-gone conclusion anyway, that they're going to go someplace and then probably going to live and come back and be fine.
Buy the shit out of that, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Tootsie and North Force on an adventure? Hell yeah.
Is that, I mean, is it something that you're thinking of, or is it kind of just...
I laid out a few pages with the idea that might happen, but I don't know that will ever happen.
Do you notice like a bigger bump in sales in Canada when you have like a North Force Zero or something? Is there any way to track that?
All. Yeah, I don't have any idea what goes on there.
Having Raptor be the old woman was very inspired. That was a good twist I liked.
Yeah, there's a few that I thought were kind of fun to do, just because you wouldn't expect, like, I wasn't expecting, the guy who's the main dude to be, who I think all of them were like, they're called secret identities, like the guy said, it's like, if they all look like how you expect them to look, then they're not very they're not very secret anymore, So it was kind of fun to monkey around with stuff.
Yeah,
Grizzly
definitely.
and Raptor.
Yeah, you expect like the guy who's like Jet not to be, some bulky dude. I expected him to be more like the Bear or, like Grizzly or something. It's just cool.
Yeah, and just having a girl change into Grizzly, I thought would be, there's no reason this couldn't be a female bear instead of a male bear.
Yeah, like Raven said, Raptor is just some really old woman with a walker. She turns into this like agile, like, crazy clawing character. And then I guess is that his skin that's just like pale white like that?
No, that's not his skin at all. He's completely masked up. He's just got
right.
this little mask underneath his mask, so that you're not seeing his actual skin.
Glad you asked that, Craig. I was like, is that makeup? Does he like make his mouth up?
Yeah.
No, I was kind of thinking, like how Mr. Miracle has this. It's just his face the way it is. I tried to do his mask where I didn't show the lines where the mask hole was, and it just looked weird. It didn't look quite right. So I was like, I'm going to have a mask hole, but I'm just going to have it be white inside, and people can scratch their heads. What the hell's that all about?
Great diversity on the team too. Like, I mean, I feel like you really have like a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life in North Force.
Yeah, and I tried to spread them out across the country, so you got different characters from different areas and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'll try my best.
Grizzly's definitely coming out as a fan fave, I think. That dude rules.
Yeah, the sequence I started drawing was the other members of the team discovering her in a bar because she's like, somebody comes up to her and pinches her ass in the bar, and she just flips out and punches him, but turns into a bear in the middle of a bar. So it's like, oh, that's a cool visual.
Also love all the shots of like the sole of Grizzly's boot. Those are always great. Just like the little treads.
There's some fun stuff here. Like this page where there's like a bunch of floating ads. That's kind of a Gil Caney kind of thing. I was looking at some. I don't think it's ripping off anything specific, but I definitely had Gil on the brain when I was doing that. And just trying to come up with interesting visuals of people talking can be complicated.
Yeah.
It's like, I got 5 pages in a row where people are just kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like, okay, well now it's actually 8 pages. Jesus. It's like, how am I going to do this so it doesn't just read as super boring looking? Like, how do I break this up?
It's funny that you mentioned that because we definitely noticed that, because I remember when we reviewed this issue and we talked about how you're really good at just kind of moving the camera around, so it's just not the same kind of view of the same heads talking, and how it really impacts like the experience of reading it. It does make it fun. I hate when people don't move the quote unquote camera around. It's just so static, and to see those different views.
It could be a problem.
Like modern artists feel clever when they like draw like a same pose and then just draw different faces. And I'm like, bro, we know Photoshop and Clip Studio exists. Like, you're not impressing anybody. Move that goddamn camera around, please.
Do something. Oh, wow.
It was funny as we reviewed it. I was telling the boys, I said that's talking heads is like the great sin of comics. Like, you just never want to have talking heads pages. And it's like Craig said, you had all those great like solutions like to not have it be visually boring. But then hilariously, you literally had a splash page of talking heads. And it was like one of the more awesome pages. I was like, oh, that's funny as shit.
Yeah.
And it worked. The head stack.
And look at all those balloons. Damn it. You really put Farron to work on that one. It's like, yeah. And then I got pages here where it's like, oh, and here's a double page spread where there's no dialogue at all. And it's like, all right, I'm still paying him for that too. So I don't know. Oh well.
How are you? Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, how are you
Go ahead.
feeling about 2022 in terms of the comic, the pace? I mean, how do you feel like you're getting back on track?
It feels like it. Feels like I'm kind of slugging my way through this, but it's it's a slug. 261 kind of sets me up real nicely for 262, where that's not going to be an issue where I'm sitting here going, I don't know what to do, because I've got a lot of knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. So that helps. And then with Anne, at least initially, there's a lot of incorporating the kinds of things that that Mario had set up before. So part of that is just he's got all these pieces that are scattered throughout his series that he did with the character. Can we put the parts of that matter in some kind of chronological order, and then take it from there? So there's a lot of that stuff is will be me straight up ripping off Mario, and then putting those things in that kind of order, and writing a script to go along with that. So that also feels like it's not so much what do I do, which is always the problem is that what the hell, but again the problem with that is just I got to accomplish a lot in a fairly quick order, because I got to get this all set up so that issue 3 can be the Spawn stuff, which is like, that seems kind of like it should be farther along than it is. I don't know. We'll see how it all works, but at this point it seems possible. But it seemed like that when I started this whole nonsense, so let's see.
Artistically, you had mentioned in the past that your natural default style leans towards like a cleaner style, and of course, like we talked about Ant 12 and 1, and we thought we didn't know what to think. Were we going to love it or hate it or whatever? But I think it landed pretty damn good with us. Has it been more liberating to sort of work in a cleaner style? Does that feel more freeing or fun?
Yes and no, because there's pieces where I know I would be able to lean on the other stuff, and there's places where it feels like, oh, this is a little too empty at times. How am I going to make this work? So there's occasional challenges which have been challenging, but whatever. You work around that stuff, and then you find something else to bellyache about. So.
But on top of it, you are coloring it yourself as well, so it's got to be taken. Yeah. I mean, so whatever time you save on, the inking or your pencils, you're losing it on coloring, right?
To an extent, the coloring generally goes fairly fast. Mike's doing flats for me, but I'm having him do black and white flats, so It's all gray tones. Because I didn't want to be influenced by his color choices.
Okay.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a whole other thing. But yeah, I'm one of those colorists where I'm like, what about green? What about yellow? Just keep dropping in different. God damn it! I'm hoping that eventually this stuff is going really quick. But
do you fun with color?
Also, I'm doing flat colors in it, so that's a time saver where I'm not going crazy with all sorts of gradients and stuff. I've done it, I think, in the first story, issue 12, I think I used one gradient in the whole issue. And then with the first issue, I've got gradients. I think I just did a couple skies that have gradients in there. Oh no, the buildings in pages 2, 3 have something going on too. But I'm trying to be really like strip it down, keep it simple. Don't go too crazy with it. I'll probably start doing more knockouts, which I didn't really do much of in the first issue. I don't know that I did any in the first issue, other than these characters. You know, when they're too far away, then it's like, all right, you can all be great. That's fine.
It looks good. I mean, we loved it. There's kind of like your coloring is kind of like a lot of pastels and stuff, which I don't know if you were like shooting for that or whatever, but I mean, it just instantly looks different than Dragon.
Yeah, no, that was the notion was to have it look really different from Dragon. So you're not looking at it going, oh, this is just the same old shit, but in a different book. It's like, no, I want this to visually really look different. So that was very much the intent, is to have these two just feel as different as they can, you know, and it helps that I'm kind of emulating some of the late 80s, 90s kind of panel borders in Savage Dragon again, which I wasn't doing for most of the series, but suddenly I've got double borders on stuff, or craggy borders, or whatever. So anyway, it should be fine. We'll see how it goes. You know? It's always this. How's this gonna work? We'll see how it works.
Well, and like you said, it will evolve as you kind of get your feel for it and what you like and don't like once it's printed.
Yeah, you know, but part of it is, you know, finding colors that Ant really pops against, and it's like, okay, well, those are going to be somewhat muted colors and not, so there won't be a lot of solid blues and solid other colors, because I want her to kind of be the most intense thing on the page. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. I mean, I kind of made a mistake of having Daredevil be in that first story, because like, well, he's going to be solid red too. So how's this going?
So you did the layouts for that issue 12, and you reuse those. Those are the ones that
yeah. I just
Mario was going to use.
Yeah, because Mario just went off the reservation when he did his. He only did one page, but he had reinterpreted it in a crazy kind of way, and then he wasn't. It just seemed like this is never going to get done if I just leave it up to him. And
was Daredevil in that book as like the Charlie Echo character who's going to be that? Like when you did the layouts originally, was that Charlie Echo? Like, initially
the Mario had a first 7 pages that were done.
Okay.
So when I came to him, it's like he's got this chunk of it that's done, and then beginning in page 8. So it's like, I need to end this story in between 8 and 20. Here's this, and it'll end the story. And then it was, oh, now he's lost those files because his computer is no longer there, and whoever, you know, for whatever reason, those weren't available anymore. So then it was, okay, now I don't have those first 7. I need to come up with a new 7, and I can't use Charlie Echo anymore. So I need to get him out of this immediately. And so it was like, well, the easiest way to do that is just to kill him in panel 1 in a big explosion. So I don't have to draw his costume. I don't have to do anything, and just get him the hell out of the story. And and then when Daredevil shows up, then it's like, all right, he's just another character that's taking up the same physical space as the.
It worked well. I mean, I tried to get through the Image Ant series, and it was kind of tough. I just kind of poked around here and there because I had the issues. I went back and bought them. I think when you first announced you were going to do Ant, and I had like the first 3 when they came out, and that's kind of where I stopped. But it's kind of hard to get through that initial series. I don't know.
It's such a weird thing because it has its moments, which I like, and then it's got all this stuff which I'm not as fond of. And then it's every writer on there is putting a lie to what the other guy did before him.
Right.
And at one time, one of the issues, it was kind of making it like, oh yeah, those first 3 issues didn't even happen. It was like, well, what the hell, man? If you started off the book and those ones don't count, what's going on here? So, when I'm retelling the story, it's like, well, what parts of this even count anymore? Plus, I mean, Dragon is in one of his early issues in some flying car with Mr. Glum. And it's like, well, that dates this. And plus the way that he had written the stuff later on, he was tying it in. He really wanted it to seem as though Ant had been there since the beginning of Image. So He was like, let's set a bunch of this stuff in 1992. And it's like, well, is your character going to be in her 40s? I mean, this doesn't work anymore. You can't really do this.
Right. She's like fighting in Baghdad, right? Like Operation Storm or something. Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, this can't work. It doesn't make any sense, unless I'm going to set her story in the 90s and just keep it there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And doesn't know what the internet is.
It's such a nightmare. All right. Well, listen, guys, it is that magic time when I have to turn into a pumpkin.
Well, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for answering all our insane questions.
All right.
And hopefully we will not wait so long to have you on again.
We say that every time, Jim.
This again real soon.
I think we'll make up for it more this time, though, for real. We'll get you back sometime in the new year for certain.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Take it easy.
Good talking to you again, and I'll be in touch.
All right.
Great. Bye.
Well, that was a fantastic interview. I mean, as always, it's a super pleasure to have Erik on the show. We will seriously make an effort in 2022 to have him on a little more frequently. But it's always a pleasure. Great to have him on there. Love to get those additional insights and stories that he always brings us. And, now I think we're to the part of the show where we're going to just take, not long, but it's end of the year. And I'm kind of wanting to know what Craig and Jim thought about generally Savage Dragon in 2021. Lay it on me, fellas. What's your general, broad picture views? Standout moments, things you wish there was more of, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, we all probably wish there was more of or more issues. But, you got to take the good with the bad. And, Erik had those struggles with the writer's block, which hopefully, with a little luck, are in the past. But I do think the issues that we did get in 2021 were exceptional. Think about it. This year we got Faco, who we all know, and we got the return of Thor, and we had a fun road adventure between Walter and Amy.
Yeah,
and of course we got to meet the amazing group of North Force, and return of Tantrum.
Yeah,
Torment, the other T1. Yes.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore. I feel like even though it was just 5 short issues, I feel that this year was packed with eventful moments, character introductions. Paul got his robot arm.
That's true. He did get his arm chewed off. Actually, got his arm chewed off right at the beginning of the year, which was a big thing because, of course, I think we all had speculated that Paul didn't have the regenerative abilities of Dragon. So seeing that play out, in such a visceral fashion was a shock.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of shocks, we got to see Malcolm go Super Saiyan against Thor. And that was fucking great.
That whole Thor thing is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Especially since he got to beat up on North Force in particular. And, of course, the death of Miki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was huge.
Huge loss.
Well, I mean, it's huge in that, think about it, like, Thor immediately started blaming Malcolm. Now Thor has, like, a fucking vendetta against Malcolm.
That's what I mean. It's his son. And so, again, another death at the hands of Malcolm, inadvertently, at least. But
it's even nice funny you mentioned that, Craig, because, like, as I was rereading them for the show, I was just like, we always poke fun at Malcolm being, Malcolm the murderer. But, like, it kind of, like, it fucked with Malcolm a little bit that, he was more or less involved in Miki's death there. It was a nice character moment.
Right. I got to agree with you guys, though. There's so much, I mean, we're only talking about 5 issues, but again, it's just a lot happened. The return of Mako. For a while, we didn't, we saw him floating in that quote-unquote back to tank
Let's
or whatever.
be real. He's still not Mako.
Right.
No, Fako. But you still have a Mako-like character. You have Thor now. So you got like 2 old school baddies that are kind of back. They're fan favorites.
Yeah.
Then you get Walt, an episode or an issue with Walter, who's becoming the new fan favorite. Yep. You get North Force, which we got a North Force Zero out of, which was pretty cool.
Has Alex ever made it to the wedding altar?
Oh, that's right. I forgot they got married.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I mean, yeah, think about it. Like, Alex.
You know what? I can't remember if she actually married
no, they
Chris
just
or
floated
not.
around.
No. I mean, remember there was that
Chris.
Remember Chris? They were together
Yeah.
for like a while, and I can't remember what they're... I'm pretty sure they were just broke up, ultimately.
Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, she finally got her fairy tale ending and married Dragon.
Yeah.
Sloppy seconds. The seconds meaning Paul.
I mean, we just got finished talking about it with Eric, but the whole issue 260 with the 2 letters was a real fun issue.
Yep. Dueling banjos.
2 letterers, North Force Zero. Like, it's funny all the you were saying that, Craig. It's funny all the eventfulness just even around the book. Like, not even necessarily in the book, but like the eventful stuff that happened even just around Savage Dragon.
Yeah, including finally the arrival of the Ant series.
Yeah.
Which we've been waiting on for years now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Larsen's been busy, for
And when you look at this year, the first half of the year went pretty well. I mean, we were getting them at least one. The longest was like a 2-month period until we hit like June, and then it was 3 months until we got an issue in September, and it's now, we're now getting on another 3 months or so for the next issue. So it's really been the last half of the year. And again, I don't know how much is tied with, the letterer, Eric's writing block, the printing issues. But it does stink not to get new issues. And it does slow down this podcast because we're not getting the new issues to review. I guess we could do retros, but, we've all, side note, had eventful kind of end of the year issues going on as well. So there's been big changes for us behind the scenes. But I mean, hopefully with 2022, we can get back more into our normal pace.
Let me throw this out here real quick. Friend of the show, Matt Hickman, mentioned in the very frequented, we mention on the show all the time, Erik Larsen Savage Dragon fan group on Facebook. Friend of the show, Matt Hickman, mentioned that also, we had Vanguard over at Big Bang.
Correct,
Bang, yeah. And then you also had the Captain Tootsie, Captain Marvel Big Bang comic.
Yep.
So and those were this year. And so it's like, there was just actually a lot more on the table when you add Ant and you add the Big Bang Adventures. There was a lot more to sort of chew on than you might think.
You had the Savage Dragon covers on crossover, and then you had Erik Larsen covers on Geiger and Firestarter. Is it Firestarter? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct.
So there's a few other extra things. I mean, it doesn't compare to getting a new issue of Dragon, but
did you say crossover?
Is that what it's called?
I think crossover got a cover too, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. Crossover. The Erik Larsen Dragon. It was actually Savage Dragon on the cover, which made it even more sweet. It wasn't just Erik art.
Right. Well, wait, what was the third one? I remember
Geiger
and
Firestarter. And
Firestarter.
Firestarter.
The Kirkman Samney issue 12. Was it 12?
Yeah. Firestarter or Firepower?
Firepower.
Oh,
You're
sorry,
right.
Firepower.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
I'm glad you got it.
I dropped that book.
We're trying to keep it tight. I want to know, you guys, your top 2021 moment from this year. Like, which to you ranked the standout of those 5 issues?
Oh, it's tough, man.
You want me to go to so you can kill time?
You can go kill some time. I got to look through.
Torment fight. Torment choking Malcolm with his own guts.
Yes.
It was just over the top. And I think that was just overall just a year of good fights. I mean, goddamn, that Thor fight was hot. But, like, that was just such a great thing because it just really illustrated, like, here's Torment, and he's like, he's afraid to even bust a bubble. And then, boom, next thing you know, he's strangling Malcolm with his own guts. And I was just like, holy Toledo. To me, that's 2021's top moment. Hope that bought you enough time.
I'm gonna have to go with
Hind Dog getting his chicken stole.
I mean, there's a lot of options here, but I think where to go? Shoot, Craig, you got one yet?
I'm just gonna go. It's probably the most boring answer, but the Thor fight, just because. I mean, you look at issue 257, and even just with a throwaway character like that Grunhilde character, that splash page kills it with the snow. She looks awesome. The fight, losing Mickey, like Thor just ripping out Ragnarok's eyes, a character that, was a nice little callback to that issue with Ant when the Illuminati was stealing the gods' bodies. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. Just Thor in general, pulling the eyes out and jamming it into his face. There's like he looks so psychotic with like the blood dripping down his eyes, right. And just the way Mickey was just kind of, his face was just blown apart by Thor's hammer. Right. Just absolutely shocking, and just couldn't have happened to a better villain.
Yeah, it was really tough for me, man. That was almost my number one, Craig.
I love that cover with like just the hammer coming down on Malcolm. The power of that. It's just, it was such a cool issue.
And honestly, we had speculated what would happen against Malcolm versus Thor for a while, so it was a huge payoff.
Yeah, it was like lightning power versus,
lightning
thunder.
Versus lightning. we were hyped. So, Jim, you there yet, man?
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of an odd pick, but I really like in issue 259 when Captain Tootsie shows up and uses his beam to disintegrate all the Rockmen.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that.
It's a cool visual.
Little wavelengths.
Yeah. Yeah, with the waves coming off with the inverted colors.
Tootsie's the man with the plan, dude.
It was good to see him back too, because he was kind of
he'd been gone for a little while. Yeah,
one assumes to space with North Force. Oh wait, no shit. That was where he started that journey.
Yes,
I'm an idiot.
It seemed like basically we hadn't seen him since Scourge died, or at least not.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let me ask you, again, trying to keep it tight. So, 2021, it's in the history books. It was a slim year. I'm going to eliminate you from saying more issues of Savage Dragon because that's just kind of obvious. Give me some hopes and dreams, something you would like to see from the book in 2022. You cannot say more issues.
For me, it's 264. I want it to be a banger. The story of Paul cover where we're learning about Paul Dragon.
Right.
I'm just really, really looking forward to it, and I want it to be super awesome.
I agree.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important issue, I think.
I keep looking at that cover and just waiting because it's got all the old characters kind of running at you. Mm-hmm. It's showing is it Rich Johnson and Paul Dragon? Is it Rich? No, what's
it's Bleeding Cool.
Yeah, that's what's his name? The Johnson, the
ugly one.
No, the father.
Oh, you putting me on the spot like this?
Oh God, people are gonna skewer me for not knowing. But anyway,
fake fan.
Yeah, it's him. It's showing how him and Dragon were separated. William Johnson. Jesus Christ. How William Johnson and Dragon is separating on the cover. I don't know. The Bronze Man's on there. It's just, I just want to see it. I want to know what it's about. At last, all the secrets revealed. I mean, how can you not want to purchase that off the rack when you see that?
Yeah, dude. That's a strong-ass pick. Jim, what are you wanting? It's anything you want. Other than more issues. Can't say that.
With me, it's hard to say. I mean, there's stupid stuff I want, like more Seeker. But it's just... go. Whatever Erik wants to do is what I want. Is really how it always boils down. I mean, I
how magnanimous of you.
I mean, there's, I joke about the Seeker, but there's certain villains I always want to see come back, but you can't just bring the same villains back all the time. Like, I love Neutron Bob, but he doesn't need to come back every day. Like Craig, I'm kind of excited for that Paul issue. I'm curious if it's going to be like mostly flashback, or if Erik's going to do something like really interesting with like the present day, possibly. It would be cool if it was like all black and white. If it's like all flashbacks, if like the flashback sequences were black and white,
like graphic fantasy.
Exactly. That's how nice, you know, dude. It's in the past.
That's nice.
There was no color in the past.
Do you think that he will try to emulate the art style of the past? If there's any like flashbacks,
I think the cover is a good indication that maybe not. I think he may just want to do it his current way and not go too crazy on that score. It would be interesting to see him try, but I think it's pretty tough for artists to like regress like that intentionally.
Dude, I am so stoked to see like Flash Mercury style Dragon.
Yes.
Even without like the more like the one on the cover is more like the Batman instead of the needle nose, but I mean, I don't know. I hope we get some good splashes of old school Dragon.
I'm kind of curious what's going to be going on with the Vicious Circle now that Dart's dead, and Rogue Warrior's been arrested, and like, now Bug's taking care of the Dragon Kid.
Barry.
Barry, yeah.
Is it Barry?
Yeah. That stuff is. Wait, no, not Barry. Barry's the other.
No, Barry's dead, right?
Barry's Battle Axe's kid. Yeah, he's Dark Dragon's kid. He's dead.
Gotcha.
This is a different kid. This is a Dart Shark kid.
Right.
I've forgotten. I do kind of hope to see that kind of continue. The Vicious Circle like reorganize itself, but of course we got covers coming up that suggest that Malcolm and Paul are going to be fighting somebody.
Hilariously, Malcolm predicted a gang war in issue 256.
Did he?
Yeah, he's sitting in the hospital bed. He's like, guess there's going to be an all-out gang war now that Dart's dead.
I mean, on 262's cover, he's definitely fighting Vicious Circle villains.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely... Oh, and it says, they join forces to take down the Vicious Circle. So, do you guys think the Vicious Circle...
will be definitively defeated? No fucking way, they're fucking cockroaches.
Now wouldn't that be fucking berserk though? Like if he writes the vicious circle out of the book, talk about some end of an era shit.
Do you think Mako takes over the throne of the vicious circle?
I really hate Fako, so I'll be honest. Sorry, Eric. I'm not a big fan of how you've brought Mako quote unquote back. I think it's a little bit.
You hate blood.
It's just not that interesting to just have a guy become the spitting image of Mako. There's got to be another wrinkle to it for me to get invested. Sorry.
Maybe he'll grow on you.
He needs a croissant fin like Paul. That'll help.
Mako comes with just like a shark fin on his head.
That'll help Jim keep them separate. We're moving along in time, trying to keep it tight. I just want to throw my hope out. You ready? You ready for an 11th hour?
Let's hear
what
it.
The hell? I want in 2022, I know this is not going to happen, but I want Invincible to have a cameo.
Wait, but there's a time skip in there that doesn't. There's like
Doesn't
thousands
matter.
of years in the fucking future.
No. I'm not saying that it has to make any kind of like, oh, this is
Also,
the
he's
end of
not
the
allowed.
issue.
He's not allowed on Earth.
Hey, I'm saying make it work. It's a comic, dude. There's
I
a
suppose-
robot.
reality.
I suppose North Force and Captain Tootsie could hang out with him.
There's a robot maid and a tiger friend. I'm just saying anything can happen.
See, if you want to do that, you gotta have him drag Malcolm hang out with the daughter character whose name escapes me at the moment.
Girl Vincible.
Her, yes.
Well, I know it's not going to happen. If you want a more realistic one, I would like to see Ant and Malcolm.
Sorry,
have...
I'm shooting you down because I adhere to canon, Mr. Perez. It's just
what a hater.
It's who I am.
I hope the Seeker never shows up.
Yeah. Well, don't
I hope
worry,
he's done.
he won't.
No, I guess my non-pie in the sky wish is for Ant and Malcolm to have a crossover moment in 2022. Let's go ahead and just get that synergy going, dude. That's it. That's mine.
More Ant is excellent idea.
Yeah. Well, so there's your look back on 2021. There's your hopes and dreams and your defining moment. Is there anything else that you fellas would like to throw out there in regards to sort of a year, end of the year or next year, like anything you're thinking?
Well, I'm getting real excited about comic books. There's a whole bunch of really cool ones that have been announced for the new year that I'm really, really stoked for.
You may give us 2.
Well, right off the top of my head, too, apparently Kurt Busiek is bringing back Aerosmith, which was a comic from the early 2000s. I believe that was announced for certain. Plus, I think the return of Astro City is imminent as well.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Because he moved all of that to Image, and so it's going to be coming out from Image. I believe that it's going to be like graphic novel format, but it's just really excited to get more books from him because I've never read a bad Kurt Busiek book ever, and so I'm always excited about that. There was another book I was really stoked on, but like usual, I've forgotten it, which is unfortunate. Let me look that up while you guys ramble.
Craig, give me 2 things that you're excited for about 2022.
Honestly, it's a weak answer, but just to get more FINcasts in, I feel like we've been kind of slacking, but I want to get through some retros, and I think we have it in us. There's a whole pile of good Freak Force comics. I'm hoping to get guys like Augie DeBleek on, and I know we've talked about, we have a kind of a pretty cool announcement for our anniversary as being 10 years on the FINcast, which I'm not going to spoil it yet.
We should have mentioned at some point that we've actually entered our 10th year of existence as of November. Since I don't think we podcasted very much in November, I don't think it came up.
And I think people are going to be shocked to hear what our special announcement is. Unfortunately, this is not the time to announce it, but
hopefully soon. We've been
working our butts off on something really, really cool, and I think if everything pans out right, it'll be freaking awesome.
We hired a girl to recreate the Maxine.
That's
She's
right.
Cute. You're gonna like her. She's got freckles. It's nice.
It's true.
It's a one of a kind. It's a one of a kind digital experience from your friends at the Savage FINcast.
But yeah, I mean, those are what I'm looking forward to. To finally be able to discuss our thing that we're putting together and to kind of celebrate our 10 years as a podcast, which I don't think we've really, like Jim said, we haven't really talked about it. And I think over the next few months we can start hyping ourselves and giving ourselves a pat on the back for putting this out.
Yeah, man. I agree with you 100%. I think that there's some incredible stuff coming for our 10th year. And on a personal note, I never thought I would do this, but I finished collecting Savage Dragon proper. And then because of the retros, I actually went and bought every single Savage Dragon side comic. So
nice.
So it's like that's a milestone I literally never would have crossed without you guys and the show giving me a boot in the ass to do it. And I feel so fantastic about having this material that before I just had attitude. I just didn't care. It wasn't by Erik. I didn't want to read it. And thanks to the show, I've been really enjoying these retros. I've been really enjoying this like Freak Force. And even though Augie, we beat up on it, I still love it. TMNT, like all that stuff just really has hit me in a way that I never thought it would. And I went out this year, got every last thing. So, oh man, it just feels so good. I'm so excited to go over that stuff with you guys.
Yeah, I've been working on that myself, although I've been having a lot less luck lately. I've got some issues in the 30s of Savage Dragon I've not been able to get my hands on. Specifically, the one of the Spawn issues has just not turned up for me. And I got most of the spin-off stuff. I think I'm missing a Dart issue, I think is the main one I'm missing.
Oh, I got dupes. Let me know, dude. I bought...
Who the hell has dupes of Dart?
Oh, me. I bought some of that stuff 3 times. I bought Savage Dragon God War 3 times.
That's probably one of the harder miniseries to find, though, because it's getting towards the later years of Dragon.
I bought Deadly Duo twice.
I bought a bunch of Deadly Duo issues like accidentally twice because the logos are identical, and I couldn't remember which number 3 I had.
Yeah, for sure. Jim, did you get your second thing there?
No, although I did find another comic I was interested in. It's called Step by Bloody Step. This is an Image comic by C. Spurrier and Mateus Bergara. It looks like it's like a giant robot kaiju thing, but it's nice. Like I can't really describe it like easily.
No elevator pitch for us, then.
It's like I think there's like maybe a commandy aspect to it as well.
Cool.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing an actual series description, but the cover looks cool and the art looks good.
Spurrier's name tickles me as familiar. What's his big I Would Know Him series?
Oh, that's tough, man, because I don't know if you would have... See, I know him from 2000 AD.
Okay,
Gutsville.
Enough.
Did you read Gutsville?
No, I didn't. But just to know he's a 2000 AD guy is good enough. That's a hell of a lineage.
Because he's done a lot of Marvel stuff and DC stuff in the most recent years, which you're not going to be familiar with at all. To be fair, I barely am. I guess Six Gun Gorilla.
Okay, there you go, dude. I know Six Gun Gorilla.
Okay.
Fantastic. Hey guys, I think we're pretty tight on time. Last call for thoughts, sentiments, anything you want to throw out there.
I think I said it all. I'm just, like I said, looking forward to the new year.
Me too, man. This 10-year anniversary of ours, just nothing but awesome things ahead. I think 2022 is going to be a kick-ass year for Savage Dragon fans, and it is also the 30th Image anniversary. I think that's going to energize Erik more than he thinks. And I'm really excited. Can't wait to do more shows with you guys, for sure.
Sweet. Same here.
Well, thank you for listening, Savage FINcast listeners. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Eric. I guess that's it.
Yep. Talk to you. Thanks for listening. Talk at you later.
Talk to you for listening. Thank you later.